The Enneagram 5 is very often watered down into logical, emotionless, and introverted types, but there is far more complexity and depth to these individuals. Many get mistyped as Enneagram 5s because there is a misconception that only 5s can be fixated on intellectual pursuits, but this is very much a myth. There is a motivation and reasoning behind the 5's prioritization of pursuing knowledge and introverted tendencies. It's not as surface level as it seems. The Enneagram 5 is the first in the head triad, which deals with fear and anxiety first and foremost. All of the head triad copes with fear differently, and for the Enneagram 5, they cope with fear through withdrawal and isolation. This is their defense mechanism. Isolation involves the separation of emotions from thoughts. They deal with anxieties and other painful states of mind by isolating feeling from knowing. The Enneagram 5 detaches itself from emotions and depends on logic, taking refuge in their inner world. This detachment and compartmentalization of emotions also means that when faced with conflict, the 5 would find it better to disconnect and withdraw from the situation than to respond. This also makes them hypersensitive individuals, as they always feel the need to shield themselves and remove themselves from situations. Naturally, the 5 is drawn to privacy, security, invisibility, and solitude. It is believed that the 5 is the most intellectual and introverted type in the Enneagram. The Enneagram 5 desires anonymity in life due to their fixation of stinginess. They wish to observe life from the sidelines, as to participate and involve themselves too deeply may be too terrifying, which is intertwined with the coping mechanism of isolation and withdrawal. For the 5, the social and emotional world is far too fear-inducing, and so they seek a form of power and security and knowledge. They analyze data from the external environment to feel a sense of security. The Enneagram 5 is also conserving of their energy, seldom impulsive. They disregard participation and action not only due to their want for isolation. They wish to protect their energy, greatly valuing materials and resources to ensure stability, making them very autonomous and self-sufficient individuals. This is linked to the passion of avarice. The 5 have a greed for holding on to what they have due to their feelings of depletion and unwillingness to offer oneself. Their greed is not necessarily materialistic. Avarice exists differently depending on the subtype. The 5's autonomous behavior also makes them very analytical and perfectionistic. Their dependence on logic and intellectualism actually makes them appear arrogant and pretentious at times, often like they know more than others. This is different from the Enneagram 1, however, as their perfectionism is directed internally towards themselves rather than externally. 5s are overall cognitively oriented. They are introverted and prefer to live in their heads. They disengage from involvement and participation in events in which fear may arise, and separate themselves from their emotionality.
Sometimes it scares me to love someone so completely and not have them love you back.
The sexual 5 is the countertype of the 5s, meaning it is less noticeable as a 5. Even though this subtype is referred to as confidence, this is actually because they lack confidence in their attractiveness and capacity for relationships. Avarice, when intertwined with the sexual instinct, creates a contradicting and conflicting character. Avarice exists in the sexual 5 as a greed for one-on-one meaningful relationships.
In the end, you couldn't love me. I feel at peace with that now because I loved you the absolute best that I could. And I gave you what you wanted. I feel good about that. I helped you become the writer you so wanted to be.
Although the sexual 5 is an individual who is distrustful and skeptical, isolating themselves in fear of being harmed, the sexual 5 is also one who idealizes the concept of trust with someone. They wish to seek refuge and security with that one person. Despite this, there is a fear of expressing affection freely. The sexual 5 will only fully let its guard down once they know that they can trust safely. The sexual 5 is the most emotional, romantic, and intense 5, with a high standard and idealization surrounding the realm of love and one-on-one connections. The sexual 5 is on a quest to find that one specific special person in their lives.
その横顔から目が離せない。心臓の音がうるさくてもう花火の音は聞こえない。
This may look very similar to the Enneagram 4, Sexual 7, Self-Preservation 6, and sometimes even Enneagram 2. However, the difference is all in the cause. For example, the Enneagram 2 is prideful, aggressive, and more demanding. They are able to seduce confidently, unlike the sexual 5. The Enneagram 4 still experiences a large variety of deep and intense internal emotions, but the sexual 5 is still relatively disconnected and detached from emotions due to isolation and withdrawal.
I hope I'm also wrong about me. Maybe I don't need to shut down forever. Maybe I don't need to run away so fast. And if that could be with you.
The sexual 5 is not easily satisfied due to their ideal love fantasy. The sexual instinct and the passion of avarice, then, will lead the individual to often restrain on letting go, as this may lead to a catastrophic emptying and rejection. The need for intensity and connection is compromised by the need to isolate and withdraw. The greed of the sexual 5 causes them to wish for the perfect and fantastical one-on-one connection, in which the other is not emotionally demanding. This, however, causes them to be highly selective, picky, and demanding. Like the other 5s, they can also be quite arrogant, perfectionistic, and pretentious.
And there are days I just don't believe in love. I tell myself to keep my heart open, that in the end I was wrong about you. Every relationship teaches us hard lessons, right? That's their gift, to make us ready for the day when someone, maybe the one, walks in.
Because the sexual 5 is the counter type, they are more likely to engage in action and are more connected to their emotions. However, their avarice and isolation still very much exists. They can be eccentric, imaginative, and loving. They will only let their cold and secretive guard down when they know that they can fully trust and love a specific person.
だって告白されるってそれだけ私を思ってくれたということでしょ？というか好きな人に好きって言われたいじゃない。わかる。それを言わせるために頑張ってきたんだもの。今さら諦めたりしないわ。
When healthy, the sexual 5 is compassionate, loyal, and romantic. It should always be remembered that even though the sexual 5 is the most attached to emotionality and is a little more prone to action out of all the 5 subtypes, they are still Enneagram 5s at their core. They are still types that are detached and withdrawn from emotions and isolate themselves from the external when conditions get too fear-inducing. They are still very highly analytical and logical types.
Ms. Harmon, what do you say to those in the Chess Federation who accuse you of being too glamorous to be a serious chess player?
I would say that it's much easier to play chess without the burden of an Adam's apple.
The social 5, due to the social instinct, is the most open to contact with others. Similarly to how the sexual 5 has an ideal for the realm of love, the social 5 has an ideal for knowledge and greed for social recognition. The social instinct mixed with avarice creates an individual who contacts others mainly due to their want to express knowledge and intellectualism. They are aware of social hierarchies, and the 5's greed and natural need for perfectionism makes them highly selective with who they interact with. Their avarice combined with their social instinct makes them want to be a totem of knowledge for everyone around them.
Out of it. Pathetic? Well, I'm looking at pathetic.
The social 5 is the most emotionally cold, confident, and arrogant 5. At their unhealthiest, the social 5 can view others as below them and as if others do not know as much as they do. They are insensitive to those around them. The social 5 avoids intimate connections unlike the sexual 5. There is a fear that they may be devoured by the other, and the distrust that he can be loved keep him out of contact. Their tendency to view others as lower than them may lead them to only associate with those who have common interests or ideals that align with theirs. They engage in the search of ultimate meanings to avoid experiencing life as meaningless.
They seek friendship, even though they do not know how to love. If I were to encounter such a monster, I would likely be eaten by it. Because in truth, I am that monster.
The social 5 is an individual who wants to be seen, just like every other social instinct-dominant individual. Despite their need to withdraw and desensitize themselves, they do wish to be acknowledged for their intelligence. The social 5 is still a very introverted and withdrawn type, despite their more extroverted tendencies out of all the 5s. Their hyper-awareness of social hierarchies makes them want to be a totem of knowledge to others, but this also means that they may categorize others according to their personal ideals and interests. You may treat others differently from others according to whether or not you view them as members of your special group. This may lead to immense arrogance and internalized perfectionism.
We can think on your time.
I want to try it.
I know, but you're not so good at that, remember?
I'll bet you 10 I can beat you.
Well, what if you throw the other games you spend all your time against me?
And what if I kick you in the crotch?
Despite this, they are very engaging individuals who enjoy intellectual pursuits and communicating with those around them about their interests. The social five are admiring individuals who enjoy viewing how others may express their ideals. The social five is looking for meanings all the time, their drive for the extraordinary. They have a fantasy that the more they know, the happier they will be.
It's an entire world of just 64 squares. I feel safe in it. I can control it. I can dominate it.
Well, creativity and psychosis often go hand in hand.
The want and need for knowledge is a way for the social five to overcome feelings of insecurity, inferiority, as well as feelings of anxiety. Their avarice leads them to be lacking in genuine generosity at their unhealthiest. They prefer to rely on themselves and may have selfish tendencies. There is a great idealization for an ideal or meaning that is not based on reality. They are very much focused on abstract thoughts. This need for the extraordinary makes them despise ordinariness. Knowledge is of highest importance.
Naturally, I'm very interested to know how you're able to commit these murders without being present. But I don't mind waiting a little bit longer.
You can answer all of my questions when I catch you.
Let's meet again soon, Kira.
At their healthiest, the social five is a type who is good at communicating with others on topics they excel in, and they are independent and capable beings. They are deeply interested in intellectual pursuits that allow them to indulge in their need for knowledge. Although they are the most socially focused five, they still heavily isolate and withdraw themselves from deep, genuine connections with others at times, and are prone to arrogance and selfishness.
And don't get used to the smile, because you're still not funny.
Huh? Raven!
Quit it.
The Self-Preservation 5 is the embodiment of the stereotypical Enneagram 5. The Self-Preservation 5 is the most withdrawn subtype of all. The self-preservation instinct, intertwined with the passion of avarice and greed, creates individuals who are consistently seeking refuge through materials and resources to survive. The self-preservation 5 will isolate themselves into a cave. They want to ensure survival by hiding in a secure place where they can safely observe the outside world while staying hidden. This, of course, is not necessarily referring to a literal physical secure location, although it could be, but they will detach themselves from others in order to reach self-autonomy and conserve their energy.
Hair, or... You wish to be alone?
How could you tell?
Energy conservation is very important for the Self-Preservation 5, and this is because of their natural avoidance for the external world. To conserve their own energy means to not be needed or needing others, taking as little as possible from the external environment. They are extremely private and self-protective individuals. They much prefer solitude over anything else. The self-preservation is like a castle, encastled in a sanctuary where they feel protected from intrusions and have control over their boundaries. The Self-Preservation 5, as a castle, needs to be hidden and protected by their thick walls to defend themselves from the outside world and others.
A クラスに上がるための手助けはする。ただ、俺の詮索はするな。
The Self-Preservation 5 is, similarly to the Social 5, emotionally insensitive. They do not feel the need to feel deeply at all, and are very detached from emotions in general. This is because there is an insecurity in their emotions. They bury emotions as they believe that expressing emotional vulnerability will lead to discomfort. The Self-Preservation 5 also disengages from conflict, and does not wish to be a part of it, because to be engaged in conflict would mean to participate in the external world with others intensely, which they dislike. The Self-Preservation 5 may even try to hide themselves by fitting in to avoid being noticed.
受けを狙うべきか。超ハイテンションで人笑いくらい取れるかも。いや、ドン引きされるか。そもそも趣味とか特技とかないし、俺は何も持たない自由な白い鳥。
次は The Self-Preservation 5 can, of course, have close connections with specific people and places, but generally will still prefer their independence. They are very docile and sensitive beings, however, and actually may be self-deprecative in a way. They feel that they are not enough and are lacking, but this is not similar to the Enneagram 4's envy, as the 4 is still deeply attached to intense emotions and experiences, but the Self-Preservation 5 is the opposite. The Self-Preservation 5's isolation and need for protection from the external world also may make these individuals shy.
Troubled mind. My mind is never troubled. People come, people go. It's pointless to be upset about Cyborg.
The Self-Preservation 5 is very self-autonomous, and knowledge becomes their safety. Their need for privacy makes them passive-aggressive when their space is invaded by others. Their need for seclusion may mean that they do not like to be told what to do, because they'd prefer to have things done their own personal way that feels safe to them. They strongly dislike expectations being placed upon them, and can become resentful towards this. They're overall not very comfortable or confident with self-expression in any form.
Thanks?
What is the occasion?
Can't I just do something nice for my friends?
Yeah, but...
You never have before. Guess there's a first time for everything.
At their healthiest, the Self-Preservation 5 is analytical, knowledgeable, and can be very warm when interacting with those they particularly enjoy being around. However, they are easily overwhelmed by the external and other people, needing to conserve their energy. The Self-Preservation 5 is the most lonely and detached subtype from the external world.
仲間だと思ったことはない。お前も、櫛田も、平田も、すべての人間は道具でしかない。家庭は関係ない。